Puppy Love, by Luca Sanchez. With no man in the house, Genevieve was living paycheck to paycheck. Money was so tight that she would even harvest the lint out of the dryers and trash cans in the laundromat so she could use it to weave new clothes on her loom. Today, she was hoping for a bountiful harvest. When she arrived at the local franchised Scrubby Dub, she grabbed her laundry basket and, as usual, brought her hyper Boston Terrier and best friend, Max. Upon opening the car door, Max burst out. Led by his nose, he sniffed around for something to eat and the scents of other dogs. Once he was confident that the laundromat's facade was free of rivals, he peed on the front of the building. "Come on, Max," Genevieve commanded, and he ran to her side. Genevieve was a creature of habit and, if possible, she always used the same 2 washers and 2 dryers. However, today was different. Her washers were already sloshing, and to her surprise, occupied by a very handsome dark-haired and tan man who was lightly playing flamenco on a nylon string guitar while keeping the beat by hitting the body. She wasn't sure if he was Hispanic or Arab, but he certainly caught her eye. "He's so hot," she murmured to herself. Immediately, Max went over to smell him, and the man stopped playing and looked down at Max with a smile. He mumbled something to the dog and patted him on the head. Max's tongue panted and his eyes seemed to look in opposite directions, but it was clear he liked the attention. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to disturb your playing," and called Max to come back to her. "It's no problem," the man said and returned to his guitar, giving her a warm smile and inviting eyes. Genevieve approached a different set of washers, emptied the contents of her hamper, and used a coin machine that seemed to hungrily gobble up her meager yet hard-earned money. In total, she exchanged a $20 bill for 80 quarters. Having this cache of quarters almost made her feel rich, but she sighed when she realized they would be gone in no time. Immediately, she started filling in the rows of the coin muncher. She rolled her eyes when she saw that these particular washing machines cost more than a gallon of gasoline. $4.50 each. With a frown, she finally pushed the slots into the washers, set the temperatures to hot, and used the dial to specify large loads. When she heard the water start, she turned to harvesting lint from around the LED-lit room, all the while becoming mesmerized by the man playing the guitar. As Genevieve searched the traps, Max jumped into her laundry basket and began chewing on a sock someone had left behind. She thought it was cute, he liked to chew on everything. Before long, she had collected a large lumpy fluff of the cotton waste and put it in a plastic sealable bag. Then she walked back to her new seat and began waiting out the remainder of her washing cycles. She found a romance novel and began reading a few pages into it as she enjoyed hearing the romantic guitar music just beyond her current location. Genevieve then got antsy and stood up by the washing machine folding table. She felt somewhat lonely and began to imagine what the guitar player would be like, getting to know him, and indulging in some girl flights of mental fancy. Going out on a date with him would be fun, but for now, she found herself nearly hypnotized by his music. She had never heard anything quite like it. When her clothes were done, she hadn't noticed that Max had fallen asleep in the hamper. She approached her washing machines and inspected inside them. The clothes were smeared to the inside bowl. She was about to pull them out when, at that moment, the man spoke to her in an accent she didn't quite recognize. "Ma'am, do you mind if I play louder? I am warming up to go busking in the city center. It is my habit to do so. I want to feel this next song. Do you mind?" Genevieve looked at him with admiration, almost comparing him to a piped piper, only he was playing the guitar, and said, "Yes, please. I love your music, it's great, thank you," he replied and did a quick intro that turned intense and passionate. He then raised the tempo and played faster in arpeggio, and it was emphasized with strong percussion by slapping the guitar. Then he began to sing in what sounded like a mix of Spanish and Arabic. Genevieve loved it, and it sounded so exotic. She looked back at him and started watching as she robotically and unknowingly started piling the soggy garments on top of the sleeping Max. When she emptied the washers, she quickly dashed to an open industrial-sized dryer and threw in the contents, and slammed the door without a second thought. With great urgency, she wanted to keep watching this man. She fed the dryer quarters as fast as it could take them, then adjusted it to its highest heat setting and pressed start. By this time, the man was expressing great emotion through his play style, and Genevieve stood frozen, thinking to herself, wow, he wasn't kidding. She approached him to watch the act. As he continued, there seemed to be an odd thumping that was a little bit against the rhythm. He played in a syncopated way, but this just didn't match the song. It was like thump. 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 What was it? Surely this guy, being as good as he was, couldn't be the source of that sound. Maybe it was an echo. Suddenly, the guy stopped, and his inviting eyes were showing a look of shock, and she heard the thumping much more prominently. He jerked his arm up and pointed at the dryer and said, "Que pasa?" She turned her head, and was horrified to see Max bouncing around inside the dryer like a rag doll among the clothes. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed and rushed over and jerked the door open. She grabbed him, and while otherwise looking like he had been knocked senseless, he was still alive. "Oh my baby, I'm so sorry," she said as she hugged him. "I'm so sorry." After Genevieve apologized profusely and made sure that Max was okay, the man couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. He said, "Well, I've heard of music being so good it makes your clothes come off, but I've never seen it make a dog fall asleep in a hamper and end up in a dryer before." Genevieve couldn't help but chuckle at the unexpected comment, and the two of them ended up laughing together. They continued talking and bonding over their love of the music, called flamenco, and eventually they went out on a date. From that day on, they made sure to always check the dryer before starting it up, just in case Max decided to go for another unexpected spin.